June 3rd is the last and final day to become a member of the Federal Conservatives Party, and if you do so, that means you'll be able to vote towards who is the next leader of that party. And so far, there are only 3 candidates left who have been campaigning on restoring freedoms for Canadians. I ran into one of those, which is former MPP Roman Baybar, when I was covering the Reclaiming Canada conference in Victoria, BC. You'll hear from some of his speech here, and I also took the opportunity to pull him aside and ask him about a few things maybe we haven't heard the answers to, and that is specific questions to BC, like the outrageous cost of living here, as well as some of the growing concerns I'm hearing from parents about possible radical agendas and indoctrination happening in schools. I'm Drea Humphrey, and take a look.
To know that a Canadian would be afraid of their own federal government is reason enough to get rid of Justin Trudeau. Same with the mandates. I think that it's inhumane. It's inhumane to make someone choose between their personal health and their ability to put food on the table. That's why I brought the only legislation that I'm familiar to date, the Jobs and Jobs Act, to protect workers against workplace mandates, and shame on the Doug-Ford government for voting it down. It would have been model legislation for the entire country. We have to fight and we have to articulate a very common sense propositions for all those Canadians that are suffering 21st century unprecedented segregation that will be a stain on our country's history forever. We know that against infection, even according to the manufacturer. So any suggestion that anyone's risk of transmission is higher because the risk of infection is higher is false. No one's putting anyone at risk. No one's putting anyone at risk. It's a hateful proposition that we have to oppose, and we have to be sensible. A lot of Canadians are counting on us to reach out to them as well. So I welcome you on our journey to restore dignity to all Canadians everywhere.
All right, so you made it all the way to Victoria, just came from brunch. Why was it important to be here today?
I wanted to support the Unify movement. I think it's very, very important for the freedom movement to come together and ensure that we're competitive that we're represented inside the Conservative Party of Canada, and that we help it form the next government.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question more specific to British Columbia, since you're here. Things are out of control in quite a few ways, whether it be the cost of gas here. It's insane. I'm sure you've seen it. Cost of living. How would you handle those issues for British Columbians?
Yeah. So, first of all, I'm a big proponent of natural resources. I think that Canada's natural resources are a blessing. And it's not just good for our strategic interests and our economic interests, but also of the planet, because Canadians can derive energy cleaner and safer than any other nation in the world. But also I think that we need to take every step possible to reduce the cost of living, and that it probably starts with gas. I will repeal the carbon tax on day one. I don't think that it does anything other than just making driving more expensive and the cost of everything we buy more expensive. I'll repeal the anti-pipeline line. Bill, I'm very committed to turning Canada into a natural resources superpower.
Now, if you guys didn't know, you did an interview with our Chief Commander, Ezra Levant, a nice long one. Make sure you guys check that out. And you talked about your background with the Soviet Union, and I found myself curious about how things were for children. Were there indoctrination or anything like that? Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. I mean, you get taught something akin to communist studies very early on, and you have this culture indoctrinated in you where you have to love the motherland and appreciate its political system as well. I would like to depoliticize the classroom. I think that we should just let kids be kids, and your political persuasion is something that should be shaped by your friends and family, and hopefully when you read objective news. But I don't think that politics belongs in the classroom, that's for sure.
Well, I've done reports on whether it be after-school programs that are connected to the CCP, funded by them, and the goal to be making the kids global leaders. And we even have in New West in British Columbia a high school that has 4% trans or non-binary when the national average is 0.33. So there's some concerns about whether or not that's an environment thing. So when you say that you have concerns about politics in schools, what exactly would you do about that?
So, look, I want to be very clear. I think that people are people, and I love all people.
Yeah.
And I don't think that government has any role in telling people how to lead their lives. I think that's why we're generally here, is because we want government to leave us alone. And that also includes the choices we make in our personal lives. I do think, however, that it's important, and again, we know that the federal government does not directly deal with education, it's up to the provinces. But generally speaking, I'm in favor of leaving politics out of the classroom. I also think that in terms of some social sciences, perhaps I would encourage folks to consider what is age appropriate. I'm not an expert on that, but it should certainly be age appropriate. But I think that right now it's very, very important that we focus on why we're here. There's a good group of people here that are very much determined to restore Canada's democracy. I think that our democracy is being eroded before our eyes, whether it's the mandates or the passports, invocation of the Emergencies Act, freezing bank accounts without a court order. I think we have a lot on our plate right now, and we need to stand firm in defense of our democracy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, for those who are concerned about indoctrination happening with children, we know one thing: fathers matter, and it's almost Father's Day. So if you haven't noticed already, we have an exclusive Father's Day line set up at rebelnewsstore.com. And if you use coupon code DAD25, you save when you buy 2 items or more. Take a look at some of the great items here that you can see. I'm sure there are a lot of Rebel dads who would love to receive this, and you might want to order quick so that it arrives in time. And by the way, everything that you buy at rebelnewsstore.com also contributes to keeping our journalism going strong. So we appreciate your support.